Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make a cinnamon roll cake. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I am so excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. While today's recipe is a cake, I like to think of it more along the lines of a coffee cake or a crumb cake rather than a frosted layer cake. I spent a lot of time perfecting this recipe because I wanted it to be as close to cinnamon rolls as possible. I think we've really captured both of the flavor, that nice melt in your mouth, almost gooey denseness of it. I think you're going to absolutely love this one. So let's go ahead and get started by preheating our ovens to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now in a large bowl, we are going to combine 8 ounces of softened cream cheese, and you do want to use a full fat brick style cream cheese. We're also going to add 1/2 cup of softened unsalted butter. Next, you'll need 1 cup of granulated sugar and a 1/2 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar. Now today I'm going to be using my electric hand mixer. I'm just going to cream all of these ingredients together until they are smooth and very well combined. Next, we're going to be adding 2 large eggs. We'll also add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now stir everything together again until the ingredients are smooth and well combined. Now in a separate bowl, we're going to combine our dry ingredients, starting with 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. We'll also add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, and 3/4 teaspoon of table salt. We'll just stir these together or whisk them together until everything is nicely combined. All right, now the next thing that you're going to need today is 1/2 cup of whole milk. Now, in order to get a nice, smooth, well-combined batter, I like to alternate adding the dry ingredients and the milk to the butter mixture. I'm not going to be using my hand mixer anymore at this point. I'm going to be doing it by hand. And I'm going to start by adding about 1/3 of my dry ingredients in with my cream cheese mixture. And I'm just gonna stir this with my spatula, and once it's mostly combined, I'm going to add about 1/2 of my milk, stir again, and then I'm just going to continue alternating those ingredients, stirring well after each addition, but not over mixing, which is why I'm not using my stand mixer at this point. And we just wanna have a nice, well combined batter, and this looks nice and smooth. All right, now I'm going to be baking today's recipe in a 9 by 13 pan, and I like to just lightly spray this with a little bit of baking spray. And I'll use a paper towel just to spread it because I want a nice even coating, a thin coating on the bottom and the sides of the pan. We'll just spread this batter evenly into the pan, and it is a thick, sticky batter, so I like to use my spatula to get the surface nice and smooth, pretty smooth. And now let's make that cinnamon swirl, which is going to make this a cinnamon roll cake. Now here I have 4 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter. Now this butter is melted, but it's not so melted that it feels really hot to the touch. You don't want it to be super hot or you're gonna end up with a greasy filling that's just kind of difficult to incorporate into the batter that we're adding it to. So I'm going to be adding 1/2 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. I am using dark brown sugar for the filling. I prefer dark brown sugar for the filling. I just think it's a little more striking in appearance and a little richer in flavor, but if you only have light brown sugar, you can certainly use that instead. And we'll also add a tablespoon of ground cinnamon, and I'm just gonna stir these together until they're completely combined. Now I'm gonna take this over to my batter, and I'm just gonna drop this by the spoonful on top of my cake batter. Now I'm just going to use a knife and I'm going to swirl this cinnamon ripple into the batter. And as you can see, I'm not being super careful with this. It's gonna get a little bit messy. You want to kind of incorporate it and work it down into the batter a little bit so that ripple goes all the way through the cake. And just get that nicely rippled through your cake. All right, let's take this over to our preheated oven where it's going to need to bake for about 28 to 30 minutes. Now, when the cake is finished baking, the best way to tell that it's done is if you touch it, it should lightly spring back to the touch, but also the toothpick test can work. Just one thing to keep in mind, when you insert the toothpick into the center of the cake, make sure you're not putting it in that cinnamon ripple. You wanna make sure you're putting it in the actual cake part, and it should come out clean or with a few moist crumbs. This is looking perfect, so I'm going to go ahead and let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes before I add my glaze. Now our glaze is a simple vanilla glaze, very easy to make. We're just going to make this by combining 1 cup of powdered sugar. And I have here measured out 2 tablespoons of whole milk. I'm just gonna add 1 tablespoon for now. And 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we're just gonna whisk this together until everything's nicely combined. And it does look like it's a little too stiff, so I'm going to add a little bit more milk, just adding as much as I need until I have a nice smooth glaze. All right, now I'm just going to drizzle this over my cinnamon roll cake, and it's okay if the cake is still a little bit warm. I actually prefer it that way. I think it's best served warm, just like real cinnamon rolls. And that is all there is to it. All that is left is to go ahead and dig in. So let's cut a slice. And take a look at that. Do you see that nice cinnamon ripple in there? This cake is so good. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's super easy recipe. If you tried this one out, please leave me a comment. I always love hearing from you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. You're gonna love this one.